Varsity Division for the 2023 U.S. History Week. Let's give our finalists a round of applause. My name is David Beck. I am the founder and executive director of International Academic Competitions and the U.S. History Week. I would have the pleasure of reading this match. Who has the pleasure of playing it? Let's find out. We'll do a buzzer check starting on my left and just proceeding around this way. And if I can perhaps borrow a pen from someone in the audience, that would be very helpful as well. All right, thank you much. Indeed it does. No. Worth a shot. You wanted the green jacket earlier, which I myself stole from my father. The audience is joining us. But let's do the buzzer check. And when you ring in, please tell us your name, your school, and what state your school is in. So start us off on my far left.
My name is Ian Blue. I go to Hunter College High School in New York City.
Ian from Hunter. Next up.
Shatika from the High School, New Jersey.
Adway from Robbie, Washington High School, Fremont, California. ADH, VAI, TH, last name RABI.
Okay, next up.
My name is Stephen Tan. I go to Fort County High in West Virginia.
Say that one.
STEVENTIA.
Okay, next up.
I'm Jackson Gillis, St. Stephen's Episcopal.
Ian, the state of
Florida.
Okay, Ian.
Bradford Kimball, I go to BB&N in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Here we go. All right, so this is a 35-question round using our playoff scoring system of 6 points for an early correct buzz, 5 points for correct buzz in the middle, 4 points for correct buzz before the question has been read to completion, 3 points for a correct buzz after the question has been read to completion, 2 points off for an incorrect buzz before I am done, and -1 for an incorrect buzz after I have finished the question. 3 incorrect answers still kills the question. Every single buzz will result in a score change. 50 is the magic number. If you can get up to 50 before the end of the 35-question round, you are the automatic national champion if you're the first to do that. If there's a second student to do that, they automatically take second. Otherwise, after 35 questions are done, we will break all ties as needed to determine places 1st through 6th. So everything makes sense? Okay. Best of luck to all players. Audience, please, cell phones in silent mode or turned off. And without any further ado, let's begin with toss-up number 1. This man led a faction to support allies in municipal positions called Political Education Project. This man won a narrow general election over Bernard Epton, the first Republican after 1927 to surpass 46% of the vote for the office that this man won. This man unseated incumbent Jane Byrne in a primary that was opposed by the Vergiliac 29 bloc in the council wars. For the points, name this politician who suddenly died in 1987 after 4 years as the first black leader.
Harold Washington.
Harold Washington is correct for 4 points over to Adway. Toss-up 2. A nativist contingent during this period of unrest sacked the offices of the German language Daily Vecca at Turner Hall. Local editor Frank Key Howard was arrested in the wake of this event -2, after he criticized the president's suspension of the writ of habeas corpus. Militia from Massachusetts and Pennsylvania en route.
University track rides.
-2, en route to the U.S. Capitol, put down this event known as the first bloodshed of the Civil War. Anti-war copperhead.
Baltimore riots.
That I can take for 5 points to Ian, or the Pratt Street riots. Toss-up 3. This man left the firm Skidmore, Owens, and Merrill in 2006 after nearly 40 years, stating that he was probably better known in China than in his hometown of Chicago. This architect of the Wuhan Greenland Center also designed the Central Park Tower, the second tallest building in New York. One building designed by this man is notably not connected to a sewer system and uses a fleet of trucks to remove human waste. The designer of the unfinished Jeddah Tower, for the points, who is this American architect who also designed the world's tallest building, the Burj Khalifa? we stumped you with Adrian Smith, a need to know. Toss-up 4. The alleged father of this woman was one of many white indentured servants at Colonel John Lachlan's plantation, Cohen Hall. Before the death of this mixed-race woman's alleged father, she was placed in the custody of Humphrey Higginson until her 15th birthday. However, Higginson sold this woman back to Montgomery in the colony of Virginia, with her husband, William Grinstead, acting as her lawyer for the points. Who was this enslaved woman who sued for and won? No, -2, and won her freedom and that of her infant son. Time, this is Elizabeth Key, or Elizabeth Key Grinstead. Toss of 5. One book by an author of this surname spawned over 100 name-take nationalist clubs and was followed up by the sequel, Bellamy for 6. Nice buzz. That was Ian. Lots of 6. The sponsors of this bill were the House Foreign Affairs Committee chairman who denounced the French intervention in Mexico, and the senator who would have become president if Andrew Johnson's impeachment trial was successful. This bill required an ironclad.
The 10-year law salary.
No, -2.
Wade Davis bill.
Wade Davis bill just getting it in for 6 points. Last syllable possible. 3 points to 5. Toss of 7. This man penned the lyrics "In Freedom We're Born and in Freedom We'll Live" in a Revolutionary War tune entitled "The Liberty Song." While a member of the First Continental Congress, this founding father drafted most of the 1774 petition to the king, and this man was the principal writer of the Olive Branch petition. Dickinson is correct for 5 points to Tanuj. Toss of 8. The author of this work was described by Theodore Roosevelt as the best American I ever knew and the most useful citizen after the two collaborated for years on police reform. After the publication, 6 points to Tanuj. That book by Jacob Rees. Toss of 9. During the Revolutionary War, this man's residence, Belvedere, was burned by British troops. The earliest U.S. Secretary of Foreign Affairs was this man, who, along with Ben Franklin, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, and Roger Sherman, was a member of the Committee of 5. In April 1789, this man administered the oath of office during the inauguration. No, -2. During the inauguration of George Washington, known as the Chancellor, as he was the first Chancellor of New York. For the points, what founding father shared his name with his father, known as the Judge? Time, this is Robert Livingston. Toss of 10 will score check for the players. Early attempts to script this law involved Taiwan and were coordinated by John Singleton. The second law of this name attempted to strengthen its provisions by removing an intent loophole in response to rocket attacks, which blew up oil storage. No, -2. Which blew up oil storage tanks, devastating the port area of Corinto. Laws of this name, introduced by Massachusetts Democratic Congressman, were violated by a scheme headed by John Poindexter and Oliver North involving Bolin Amendment for 5. And the score check.
We have Ian with 9, Tanuj with 14, Advik with 10, Stephen with -4, Jackson -2, and Bradford -2.
Toss of 11. This senator led the subcommittee on juvenile delinquency, which primarily focused on comic books. This senator interviewed Meyer Lansky and Frank Costello for a namesake subcommittee, which exposed the existence and the role of the mafia to the average American. This chair of the Antitrust and Monopoly Subcommittee prompted Truman to withdraw. No, -2. Prompted father for 5. 12. From 1948 to 1949, this entity was led by Charles W. Thayer. Willis Conover became the longtime host of the jazz program that this entity initiated in 1955 despite opposition from Congress. Section 501A of the Smith-Lunt Act prohibited the domestic
Voice of America
for 6 points. Nice buzz. Toss of 13. Hal Tinney coined the 6-word name for this event, which closely coincided with the retirement of Willis Van Vanter. This event is often seen as having brought about the end of the lock.
switching time, that's the
Yes, that is correct. And I apologize for that. There was no light on here on my console.
right, I was surprised.
Yeah. Okay. That's good for 6 points. Can the audience verify that nobody else was buzzing at that point? Okay, then the 6 points stand. I apologize for that, but let's do a quick buzzer check. It looked all good on mine, so the fabric needs to start. Okay, keep going. Okay, keep going. Keep going. Yep, keep going. Okay, the buzzer seems okay. Let's keep going, but please yell out buzz or if anything like that happens again. Okay, toss-up 14. 6 divisions of infantry under this man, casualties of which included officers such as Patrick Cleburne, occurred in a battle known as Pickett's Charge of the West. This Kentucky native broke through an enemy line in Gaines Mill while commanding the Texas Brigade. This man lost Hood for 5, yes. Toss-up 15, the score check again. Alexander Page spent a month pressing for this document by pointing out a mutual interest in opposing border incursions from the Soviet Union. Jiao Guangha agreed to remove all mention of treaties from this document while negotiating with Henry Kissinger. The use of the word the use of the word acknowledge in lieu of accept in this document is considered a classic example of constructive ambiguity. A February 1972 effort by the U.S. and China to work towards diplomatic relations. For the point, what is this document? Time, this is the Shanghai Communique. Score check.
Ian with 25, Tanuj with 10, Advik with 10, Stephen -4, Jackson 4, Bradford -2.
Toss-up 16. A bench in Washington Park contains a quote from this man saying, Portlanders understand and appreciate how differently beautiful is this part of the world. This man first gave prominence through his coverage of the Mexican Revolution from Metropolitan. This man who covered both.
Jack.
Yeah, I can take that for 6. I normally know him as John, but Jack is acceptable, and that's good for 6. Toss-up 17. A 2012 Modernization Act updated penalties for violations of this act, which originated after an inconclusive investigation led by Boris Shepard. A senator from New Mexico lends his name to this act, which includes a clause prohibiting any active part in one practice. The United Public Workers Vigil found that the Constitution was not violated by this act, which was created in response to the growing power of the WPA, prohibiting forms of political activity by members of the civil. Hatch Act for 4. Toss 18. This politician's novel, Deliver Us from Evil, is framed around the death of an IRA reformer. This man's dislike for Ted Cruz was summed up in the statement that he would take cyanide if Cruz ever got the Republican nomination. This man once claimed that there are too many mosques in America and oversaw a set of radicalization hearings regarding Islam. This one-time chair of the House Homeland Security Committee represented the South Shore of Long Island during his 1993 to 2021 tenure. Peter King for 4 points. Toss 19. This inventor of the lambda calculus used it to prove that Peano arithmetic is undecidable, and this founding editor of the Journal of Symbolic Logic edited its review section for more than 40 years. This man's name is a theorem that proves that even Scheiben's name is undecidable. A father of computer science who articulated
Donald Nunn.
No, that's 2. Who articulated a thesis about the nature of computable functions with one of his students. For the points, who was this man under Alan Turing's study? Timeline is Alonzo Church, toss-up 20. And the next score check. In response to this event, Nelson I. O'Shaughnessy claimed that one man might take military action to uphold national dignity. Henry May ordered a 21-gun salute to be fired during this event, which was refused on the grounds that Ignacio Morelos Zaragoza had apologized. Victoriano Huerta's refusal of terms brought about during this event.
The occupation of Veracruz.
-2. During this event led to the occupation of Veracruz by American forces, arising after American sailors on Tampico was good for 5. And score check.
Ian 29, Tanuj 15, Advik 8, Stephen -4, Jackson 8, Bradford 2.
Toss 21. This Vermont politician replaced fellow Republican Thaddeus Stevens as the chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee and filled that position until moving to the Senate in 1867. In reaction against Mormonism, this politician sponsored an autonomous act banning polygamy in U.S. territories.
Dan?
-2. The secession of Southern states allowed this politician to push through a protective tariff arising. Moral is correct for 5 points. 22. 5 years after this act was signed into law, a set of its provisions was tested in the Supreme Court case U.S. v. Johnson. Harvey Willie was a chemist who advocated the passage of
Pure fruit drug.
yeah, good number 6. Pure fruit and drug act. Awesome. 23. The line, "We shall stand by you with a devotion that no foreigner can approach," appears in this speech, whose orator became referred to as the Great Comedy by one group. The central figure urges audience to do one action in agriculture, mechanics, and in the professions before claiming that nearly 16 million hands will aid you in pulling in his speech.
Atlanta Compromise speech.
Good for still 6 points. Toss 24. At UCLA, this man published his doctoral dissertation, The Immediate Successors of Justinian. This man who collaborated with Judith Tarr to write Household Gods also co-wrote a work on Anglo-American relations along with actor Richard Dreyfuss titled The Two Georges. One book series by this man starts with Union forces do not intercept.
Harry Turtledove?
Harry Turtledove for 5 points, yes. On to the next question. Alternate history. One leader of this group, Lazarus Stewart, was killed during the Battle of Wyoming. This group marched on the certain legislature that left when they were promised a hearing by Ben Franklin. The Susquehanna were targeted during the Conestoga Massacre by
Paxton Boys.
for 5. Okay, score check.
Ian, 34, Tanush, 21, Advig, 17, Stephen, -4, Jackson, 13, Bradford, 2.
Toss 26. Patrick Curley maneuvered successfully to have this person replaced by Albert Wedemeyer. This person embraced the broken Latin motto, "Legitimum non carborundum." This person disagreed with General Claire Lee Chennault about how best to respond to the Japanese invasion of China. This person led a retreat from Burma to Assam, India, and Margaret Tupman wrote a Pulitzer-winning book that prominently featured this person who was referenced in the book's title. For the points, name this person known as Vinegar Joe. Stillwell for 3. Richard Stillwell. 27. An 1818 account by Henry Dearborn accused this then deceased leader of cowardly leadership in an effort to bolster his own run for Massachusetts governor. This man was brought in front of a military tribunal after he and Mary Burr gave up both Fort Montgomery and Fort Clinton to the British. This man is given credit for heavily fortifying Breed's Hill during the 1775 battle in Boston, serving alongside William Prescott. Putnam for 5 points. Last syllable of 5. 28. This artist stated his belief that his most common genre was the representation of the work of God in visible creation in his letters on landscape painting. This man worked in other modes, such as his portrait of Louis Marie, a frequent patron of this artist. Many of this man's landscapes depict small humans and suggest philosophical themes with titles such as Progress and The First Harvest in the Wilderness. Depicting William Cullen Bryant and Thomas Cole in Kindred Spirits. For the points, who was this member of the Hudson River School?
Coleridge?
Not Coleridge. Next one. Time. This is Asher Durand. 29. Score check at 30. The businessman Ted Bart partnered with the designer of this item, a Dutch-American engineer who developed its prototype while visiting his mother in Zurich. Mark 15 was another name for this item, which military men sometimes called a football. Consisting of various mirrors and fixed to a gyroscope, this item was developed to pinpoint certain targets from a 6-mile altitude. No, that's 2.
The Norden Lonside?
Good for 5. Toss 30. This co-founder of Mammoth Biosciences discovered the unusual method by which hepatitis C synthesizes viral proteins. This scientist discovered that method while working on Herman's famous breakthrough involving a protein from the bacteria Streptococcus. Say it again. No, -2. This co-authored the memoir A Crack in Creation, crystallized and determined the 3D structure of the tetrahymena group 1 ribozyme at Yale University. The 2020 Nobel Prize in Chemistry was awarded to Emmanuel Charpentier and for points. Dudna for 4. And score check.
Ian, 43, Tanuj, 22, Advig, 17, Stephen, -1, Jackson, 12, Bradford, 2.
Okay, toss 31, 5 to play. prevent the destruction of this document, James Bourne Ayer moved to the building in which it was signed, which was later restored by William Morris Hunt. Introduced by Joseph Warren, the signing of this document was preceded by a meeting at Faneuil Hall. This document's endorsement by the First Continental Congress was described as one of the happiest days of my life by John Adams. Civil disobedience towards the Boston Port Bill was among the provisions of, for the point, what 1774 resolves, through which a namesake county denounced. Suffolk resolves is correct, 4 points. 32. One of this man's subjects, a Nazi collaborator who had been punished with the loss of hair, was showed in The Shaved Woman of Schacht. A representative of the FIJI who participated in the Cerro Moriano was the subject of one photograph by this man, only 11 of whose photographs from a collection focusing on D-Day survived. That subject was photographed by this man wearing a cartridge belt during a Spanish Civil War engagement in which he is said to be at the moment of death. For the points, Kappa is correct for 4.
Do we have school check, please?
Yes. I have Ian at 43, Canuge at 26, Ogden at 17, Stephen at 3, Jackson at 12, and Bradford at 2. Okay, that's a check. We have 3 to play. Toss-up number 33. I'll do the math. This person was a member of the laissez-faire Bourbon faction of his party when he was elected president. Many loved ones from the opposing party supported him.
Cleveland?
Cleveland is good for 6.
Next.
And Ogden now at 23, Canuge at 26. To play 34. Art made by this group frequently includes nature-inspired double curve motifs. This group is known for their sweetgrass and ash splint baskets, which are still made in Presque Isle, Indian Island, and other reservations belonging to this group. Chief Greylock and Chief Paugus led this alliance of Algonquin-speaking peoples during Dummer's War. Made up of the Maliseet
Wabanaki?
Wabanaki is correct for 5 points. Him to 28, Canuge at 26, Ian 43, Stephen 3, Jackson 12, Bradford 2, toss-up 35 the last. This composer's early works were directly inspired by minimalism, including his piano works, China Beats, and Phrygian Beats. This composer won the 2003 Pulitzer Prize for Music for a piece for orchestra, chorus, children's choir, and pre-recorded soundtrack titled On the Transmigration. That is John Adams, and that is good for 5 points. Once again, the kid moves from high It is in order. In 6th place with 2 points, we have Bradford. Congratulations. Congratulations. In 5th place with 3 points, we have Stephen. In 4th place with 12 points, we have Jackson. Congratulations. In 3rd place with a total of 28 points, we have Abbe. Congratulations. In 2nd place, off that last buzz with a total of 31 points, Canuge. And not quite getting to 50 for the automatic win, but 43 points, more than enough. Congratulations. Thanks everybody for a great match for Great U.S. History 2023. Next event, our prelims of the International Geography Meet for playing an activity procedure around 1 room. Thanks everyone.